mutable sign axis. The mutable sign axis can be destructive in their own ways. First, we'll start with Sagittarius. So Sagittarius can be destructive because they go through experiences that give them wisdom. And the best way for them to gain wisdom is to really follow like broader horizons. It's ruled by Jupiter. So going out and exploring the world and seeing other cultures, traveling is a big thing for Sagittarius. They need to learn by doing and experiencing. And so if they don't broaden their horizons by looking at other cultures and traveling to other places, if they keep their viewpoint of the world very small and their belief systems very small, because again, Jupiter rules over our belief systems. And a lot of times going out and exploring the world breaks what we previously had programmed as our belief systems. If they don't do that, then they will bring destructive belief systems that they were raised with into the world. And with those belief systems, if they are, gray morals, bad morals, they don't look at their own belief systems at all, they can bring that energy into the world. And because they're such fiery, attractive energies that people pay attention to, they can gain a lot of traction in the world with these like negative morals and really bad beliefs. And they can spread those beliefs. And again, if you think of like cults, that kind of starts to dip into cults. It dips into like forcing religion onto people, which, as we know, can be very, very destructive. Then Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So it rules over communication and the mind. And so if we do not learn how to properly communicate when we are dealing with people, dealing in trade, because Gemini is really big with that as well, speaking to other people one-on-one or like online, just communicating to groups of people. Communication is so big in the world. I feel like it's a major problem that we do have now. And so if Gemini doesn't consciously think about their own, again, dipping into the Sagittarius Gemini axis, their own belief systems, what they've grown up with, like what information they're taking in from the world, because they take in so much information, they have to filter all that information out. They filter it out through their belief systems. They're very curious about all different viewpoints. Really depends on what's being filtered, because then Gemini will naturally start spreading that information. And as we see, the spread of negative false, information is really dangerous. So the quick spread of information is how Gemini can really become very destructive. And then we go to the Virgo Pisces axis. So Virgo is heavily about devotion. If you think about the opposite, Pisces, that is really like looking into the inner emotional self and spirituality. Virgo needs something to be devoted to because they're so good at putting things together and seeing how things should work, that if they aren't devoted to anything specifically, then who are they going to end up being in service of? Because in this world, there's so many people who will see your skills, and if you aren't using your skills, like Virgo, for something that you're devoted to, someone else is most likely going to use you for your skills because you don't know what you're devoted to. You need that devotion because we're all trying to be in service of the world here spiritually, but we need to find our way, which is what brings us to the Pisces axis. So Virgo really needs to know what they're trying to provide and why. And that's what goes into the Pisces, having that balance access. So if Virgo doesn't have that, they will use their skills probably as like behind the scenes of like a very villain type character, because it maybe makes them a lot of money, or just maybe they fell into it. Maybe they don't even realize how they got there, but they want to be of service. So they need to understand why they want to be of service and how best to do that. And with Pisces, they can be destructive because Pisces really needs to learn how to have boundaries or know their boundaries. Again, it kind of dips into the Virgo understanding of why they need to have devotion to something. Pisces will explore all around, out of bounds, everything, because they have such huge imaginations. So if Pisces isn't grounded in the practical earth type Virgo energy, they will let their imagination go wild and they will live in a fantasy world with no boundaries. And people will either take advantage of them fully and use them for whatever they want, and they won't even realize it's happening because they have very high empathy. Or if they, for example, don't allow themselves to be empathetic, then that can also be very destructive because we need that empathy to keep us, again, grounded in the earth like Virgo and to be devoted to something sacred. And Pisces as well can be destructive because if they live in a fantasy world of escapism, that can literally, they'll see the world in such a different way, and their imagination is so strong that they may produce a creation, manifest something into reality that is also destructive. Think of like people who make movies, writers, and entertainers. If they don't have that devotion focus as well, then they will just be lost in the world. And an artist lost is very destructive because they have so much potential influence that they can have over the entire world. Let's say they make a movie that has really bad programming in it because they have taken in so much information. They just don't understand what they're then putting into their own creation. That will affect the whole society that watches that particular movie that they created that came out of their imagination. So Pisces can be destructive in what they have the ability to create, because they have the ability to literally reach out of the collective conscious mind, like ideas out of the sky, and pull them down to the ground and make them real. So with that, you really need to discover who you are really, because Pisces kind of has bits of all the signs in it. And that's why they're seen as like old souls that have so much wisdom. So if they're not actively looking into what has gotten to them where they are, like what's going on within their own minds, Pisces relates to like the 12th house of like the subconscious, because that's where we get our imagination from. Then they can really release all of that energy, or just escape fully into escapism, and then they feel like they can't control it, and that could lead to substances. And that can also be really destructive to families. You know, just having one person on a substance can cause so much harm to all the people around them. Again, all the signs can be destructive in their own ways. The accesses just really help explain how we need to balance the energies, because any access out of balance is going to cause problems, not only to yourself, but to the others around you and to society as a whole. What are your accesses that you have a lot of energy in, or where do you feel like you need to rebalance things? And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can follow for more, and I offer astrology readings.